Welcome to our deep dive into Yama and Niyama Sadhana. We're exploring a guide to human conduct and spiritual practice.
Right.
And, it's not just your typical list of do's and don'ts.
Right.
It's looking at moral guidelines as this framework for spiritual growth.
Mm-hmm.
But what I find really fascinating is how these principles could even lead to societal change.
Yeah, it's true. The guide really highlights the importance of morality as like the foundation for
Right.
spiritual practice. And it goes into how these principles can help us deal with all the
The ups and downs
of life
Yeah.
and ultimately help us connect with Brahma.
So morality is the foundation. Okay, what really struck me was how the guide presents morality as this dynamic force,
Yeah.
not just like a static set of rules.
It's not just a checklist, right?
Right.
It's something more than that.
Yeah.
It's a process. It's
Right.
a journey.
And it's like, think about it this way. You might resist a small bribe.
But what happens when the stakes are higher?
Mm-hmm.
That's where this idea of morality as a dynamic force comes in.
Okay.
It highlights that morality is something that demands constant effort from us.
So it's like a muscle you have to keep training. Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's jump into the first lesson of human conduct, Yama Sadhana.
Okay.
And we'll start with ahimsa,
Mm-hmm.
which is typically translated as nonviolence, right?
Right.
But the guide warns us about misinterpreting this principle.
Yeah, a lot of people misunderstand it. They
Yeah.
think they have to avoid
Become like these
And,
insect-dodging
pregnancy.
superheroes,
Yeah.
like in everyday life.
Right, exactly. Like you're not supposed to be,
Right.
like some kind of superhero dodging insects all the time.
Right.
The guide uses really vivid examples.
Okay.
Like it talks about the reality of farming, for example, to illustrate that. Ahimsa is really about intention. It's about minimizing harm
Okay.
wherever we can.
Yeah, that makes me think about those no-kill pest control methods. Is
I-
that truly ahimsa, or is that just marketing?
It's a really good question.
Yeah.
And it gets to the heart of this idea of intention.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another layer here,
Okay.
which is this concept of atatai, which basically means aggressors.
Okay.
So how does this principle of nonviolence
Right.
work when there's someone who's actively,
Causing harm.
causing harm?
Right.
So the guide doesn't shy away from that.
It doesn't. It really.
It tackles it head on.
Yeah.
And it makes the argument that self-defense
Mhm.
and resisting oppression, they're not at odds with the principle of nonviolence.
Right, and it brings in these great examples from Hindu mythology, like Sri Rama battling Ravana.
Right. For those who aren't familiar, Sri Rama is considered like the ideal man in Hindu epics.
Yeah.
And he fought the demon king Ravan to rescue his wife. And it's similar to another example, Sri Krishna,
Okay.
who urges the Pandavas to fight
Yeah.
the unjust Kauravas in the epic Mahabharata.
It's so interesting because it makes you wonder, how does this concept apply to modern issues?
Yes.
Like pacifism versus just wars.
Absolutely. It's a very relevant question.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to another principle. Satya,
Okay.
often translated as truthfulness, right?
Right. But it's more than just
Yeah.
stating facts,
The
right?
guide goes beyond that.
The guide explains that Satya is about right action
Mm-hmm.
with the intention of well-being.
Right.
So it's not just about,
Right.
like blurting out facts.
Right.
It's about acting in a way that is actually beneficial,
Right.
even if it means, taking unusual steps.
And I give that great story about
Yes.
hiding a refugee from a,
The dangerous person.
yeah.
Right. And it really shows you how complex it can be.
Mm.
Because sometimes upholding Satya, upholding truthfulness,
Yeah.
means you have to do things.
Unconventional.
Yes. Yes. Unconventional things.
It's not always black and white.
Exactly.
All right, next we have asteya,
Okay.
which is often understood as non-stealing.
Right. Yeah, but again, the guide goes deeper than that.
It does.
It digs into these subtle forms of stealing, like psychic theft.
Psychic theft.
Well, it's like the intention to steal, even if you don't actually go through with it.
Okay.
And then there's depriving others of their due.
No.
Think about like ticketless train travel.
Oh, yeah. Totally relatable.
Right.
And a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, makes you think.
Yeah, it does. And it's funny because the guide calls out the hypocrisy
Yes.
of those folks who condemn corruption, but then justify these small acts of cheating.
Oh, I know so many people like that.
Yeah, it's so true.
It's like they don't even see the contradiction.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is brahmacharya.
Oh.
And so many people associate that with celibacy.
Yeah, that's like the common
That's
understanding, but this guide throws that out the window.
It does.
It explains brahmacharya as staying connected to Brahma,
Okay.
the divine.
So meaning like seeing the divine in everything that we interact with.
Yes, exactly. That's a really powerful shift
Right.
in perspective.
Yeah. It's not just about...
It's not just about abstaining from something. It's about connecting with something much greater.
Right.
And the guide also touches upon how the meaning of brahmacharya has been manipulated historically, especially by,
Yeah.
people who are trying to exploit others.
Right.
So it really emphasizes the importance of understanding this principle
Yeah.
in a balanced way,
Okay.
free from suppression or denial.
Yeah. That makes you appreciate how important an interpretation is
Right.
and how easily things can be twisted.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Finally, we have aparigraha,
Okay.
which is often translated as non-possessiveness.
Right.
So what's the guide's take on this one?
Well, it emphasizes that aparigraha is not about deprivation,
Okay.
but about mindful consumption.
Okay.
It's about recognizing what we truly need.
That's just what we simply want.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And how that benefits us,
Right.
both individually
Okay.
and also society as a whole.
And they even give those great relatable examples like opting for durable, practical tweed over flashy serge.
Right.
Well-
It's like choosing simple.
Nutritious, simple meals.
Yes. It's about recognizing that even those choices
Right.
have an impact.
Yeah.
What we wear, what we eat.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered Yama Sadhana,
Mm-hmm.
the first lesson in human conduct. Now let's shift gears to Niyama Sadhana,
Okay.
which focuses more on those personal observances and practices.
Right.
And first up is shauka, or cleanliness.
Yeah. And usually we think of cleanliness as just external, right?
Right.
But this guide reminds us it's internal too.
Yeah.
It's about cleaning our minds of negativity,
Yeah.
jealousy, selfishness,
Right.
all the mental dust bunnies.
Yeah. Oh, and it's funny because the guide uses this analogy of a dust storm
Yes.
sweeping through a clean house
Right?
to illustrate how quickly that negativity can take over our minds.
It's so true though, isn't it?
Right. Those negative thoughts.
They just creep in.
Yeah. They sneak right up on
And
you.
you think you've cleaned up,
Yeah.
and then whoosh,
Right.
another dust storm.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder,
Well,
why do we focus so much on
yeah.
acquiring more and more
Yeah.
instead of giving back and cultivating inner peace?
It's a real challenge
Yeah.
to resist those messages
Right.
telling us we need more
Yeah.
to be happy.
Yeah. Speaking of happiness, that brings us to Santasa, which is often translated as contentment.
Right. But it's not complacency.
Right.
The guide tells us that true contentment is not about being complacent.
Okay.
It's about finding peace
Right.
amidst the constant pursuit
Yeah.
of those external pleasures
It's like that saying, you can be a millionaire.
and still be unhappy.
Right.
Yeah, it emphasizes that true happiness comes from within,
Okay.
not from the things we accumulate.
All right. Now, on to tapa, often translated as penance.
But this guide presents tapa as selfless service,
Okay.
alleviating the suffering of others.
All right. And here's a crucial point. It requires knowledge and discrimination.
Yes, it's not just about blindly doing good deeds.
Right.
It's about making sure your efforts are actually
Beneficial.
truly beneficial.
So what kind of knowledge and discrimination are we talking about?
Well, think about this. If you're constantly helping someone who's a miser
Okay.
and they refuse to change their ways,
Yeah.
are you really helping them
In the long run.
in the long run?
Right.
True tapa involves using your wisdom to direct your efforts
Okay.
where they're going to have the most impact.
That's a really good point.
It's not just about doing, it's about doing wisely.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, on to svadhyaya, which many interpret as self-study.
And the guide challenges us to go beyond
Right.
just passively reading scriptures.
Yeah.
It emphasizes deep understanding,
Okay.
critical thinking.
And it also cautions against those misinterpretations,
Absolutely.
especially those that might be used to justify harm or exploitation.
Yes. Misinterpretations can be very dangerous,
Right.
especially when they're used to harm others.
The anecdote about the misinterpretation of Masa Sadhana is a great example.
Yeah, it's fascinating how that got
Twisted.
twisted. Right.
From something originally about vocal expression into something harmful.
Exactly. It shows you how important it is to really understand the true meaning.
Right, to look beyond the surface.
Yes, to go deeper.
Yeah. Finally, we have Ishvara Pranayadhana, which is often translated as surrender to the divine.
Okay.
How does the guide approach this?
Well, it's not about blind faith.
Right?
Or worshiping some distant deity.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the divine within ourselves and in all of creation.
So connecting with that universal energy.
Yes, that connects us all.
So it's like aligning our actions with a higher purpose, right?
Exactly. And the guide emphasizes mental japa, which is the repetition of a mantra to cultivate this connection.
And by focusing on this higher ideal, we can purify our thoughts and our actions.
And move towards that state of oneness.
Okay.
That's the ultimate goal.
You know what I find really interesting is how the guide connects all these principles to a bigger picture, like creating a better society.
Yeah.
It's not just about personal growth.
Right.
It's recognizing that.
Yeah, it's about our actions impacting the world around us.
Yeah, it's like that saying, be the change you want to see.
Right.
But this guide takes it a step further.
Gives you a roadmap.
Yeah, by providing a roadmap for how we can be that change.
Exactly.
So how do these principles translate to societal change? We talked about ahimsa, nonviolence, personally.
Yeah.
But what about on like a larger scale?
Well, the guide suggests that societal ahimsa means we're actively working to reduce violence and injustice in all forms. So that could mean, advocating for peaceful resolutions.
Okay.
Promoting social justice, speaking out against oppression.
So it's not just about preventing physical harm, but it's like tackling those systemic issues that
Going deeper.
perpetuate suffering and inequality.
Absolutely. It's recognizing that violence can manifest in many ways.
Right.
And working towards a society where everyone feels safe and respected.
Okay, so let's look at satya, truthfulness on a societal level.
Yeah.
How can that help us build a better world?
The guide emphasizes transparency and honesty in all facets of society. So government, business, even our personal relationships.
Right.
When we prioritize truth and integrity, it builds that foundation of trust and accountability.
And it also encourages us to question narratives.
Yeah, to be critical.
And challenge misinformation.
Especially
when it's used to manipulate or exploit others.
Exactly.
That feels especially relevant today, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It's about being critical thinkers and seeking truth even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient.
Okay. Now let's look at asteya, non-stealing.
Okay.
And how it applies to society.
It goes beyond just not shoplifting.
Okay.
Societal asteya means promoting economic justice and ensuring that everyone has access to the resources they need to thrive.
So addressing issues like poverty, inequality.
Yes, exploitation.
Yeah.
Working towards a more fair distribution of wealth and resources.
So recognizing that everyone deserves a fair chance.
Exactly.
And striving to create a society where basic needs are met.
Absolutely.
Okay, now brahmacharya, seeing the divine in everything.
Yeah.
How can this be applied to society as a whole?
Imagine a society where we cultivate interconnectedness and recognize the inherent worth of every individual.
Yeah.
That's brahmacharya in action on a societal level.
So moving beyond self-interest and embracing a more inclusive, compassionate view of the world.
Precisely. Seeing ourselves as part of something larger, acting for the benefit of all beings.
And finally, aparigraha, non-possessiveness.
Okay.
How does that translate to societal change?
Think about it. Aparigraha on a societal level would mean promoting sustainable living.
Okay.
Challenging that culture of consumerism.
So it's acknowledging that our planet's resources are finite.
Yes.
And making conscious choices.
Right. About how we consume.
About how we consume and share them.
Moving away from that culture of excess.
Right.
And adopting a more mindful, equitable approach to consumption.
You know, what's impressive is that this guide doesn't shy away from potentially controversial topics.
Yeah.
Like it directly addresses debt and social responsibility?
It does.
What does it say about that?
It argues that while society has a duty to support those in need,
Okay.
individuals also have a responsibility to live within their means.
Okay.
It even suggests that there should be some level of social control over individual spending to prevent people from becoming overly reliant on others financially.
That's a bold statement.
It is.
Challenging that individualistic mindset.
Right.
So prevalent today.
It raises those questions about the balance between individual freedom and collective responsibility.
Yeah, there's no easy answer there.
No.
Something we really need to contemplate.
Yeah, as we work towards a more just and sustainable society.
And the guide encourages us to approach this with both compassion and critical thinking.
Absolutely.
So we've seen how the principles of Yama and Niyama Sadhana apply, not just to personal growth,
Right.
but to creating a better world.
Yes.
But the guide acknowledges it's not always easy putting these principles into practice.
No, it's a journey.
So what does it say about that?
Well, it emphasizes the importance of community support
Okay.
and accountability.
All right.
It suggests that members of this spiritual community should actually hold each other accountable for upholding these principles
How would they do that?
through both encouragement and constructive criticism.
So it's not just about individual effort.
It's about working together.
Yeah, it's about creating a culture of support
Yeah.
where we can help each other stay on track and make progress.
We're all in this together.
Yeah.
Right. We can achieve more
Right.
when we work together.
And the guide also highlights the importance of seeking guidance
Yes.
from those with more experience.
Exactly. Like having mentors or teachers.
Yeah, like spiritual mentors or
People who have walked the path before you.
Okay.
It suggests that before making big decisions,
Okay.
especially about finances,
Right.
individuals should consult with their spiritual teachers
Sweet.
or trusted members of their community.
It makes sense. We can benefit from that wisdom and experience
Right.
of those who have kind of walked this path before us.
Yeah, it highlights the importance of humility
Okay.
and recognizing that we don't always have all the answers.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting how the guide presents a more hierarchical structure within the community, where those with more experience and wisdom are sought out as guides.
Right.
It's a different model than what we often see today.
Yeah, it is interesting how it emphasizes that lineage of knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive,
We have.
but the source material goes even deeper into each of these principles,
It does.
offering those detailed explanations and examples.
It's a really rich and insightful guide
Yeah.
for anyone seeking to live more ethical and fulfilling life.
And it's a reminder that spirituality isn't just about personal enlightenment.
Right.
It's about engaging with the world
Yeah.
and working to make it a better place for everyone.
If we connect it to the bigger picture, it's about recognizing that interconnectedness and using these principles to create a more just, compassionate, and sustainable future.
Absolutely. And it starts with each of us taking responsibility for our actions.
Right.
And striving to live in alignment with these timeless principles.
So as you reflect on these principles, think about how they might apply to your own life and to the world around you.
Okay.
What are some specific ways that you can incorporate them into your daily interactions, your work, your relationships, your engagement with your community?
Those are powerful questions to ponder.
They are.
And remember, even small changes
can have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate the power of your actions to make a difference.
Now, in this final part, we're going to go even deeper into this practice of Niyama Sadhana,
All right.
exploring those remaining principles
Okay.
and their implications for both personal and societal transformation.
We'll uncover the subtle nuances of these practices
Okay.
and how they can help us cultivate greater inner peace, compassion, and wisdom,
Okay.
ultimately leading to a more harmonious and fulfilling life.
All right, we're back. Ready to wrap up our deep dive into Niyama Sadhana.
Yes, let's do it.
We've already uncovered Shoka, Sentosa, and Tapa. Now let's explore Svadhyaya,
Okay.
often translated as self-study.
Right, but like all these principles, Svadhyaya goes beyond that, to just a surface level understanding.
Right, so it's more than just reading scriptures or passively listening to lectures.
Exactly. It's about actively engaging with the material,
Okay.
critically examining our own beliefs and assumptions.
And the guide cautions us against blindly accepting interpretations,
Absolutely.
especially those that might justify harmful actions.
It stresses the importance of finding a qualified teacher
Right.
who can guide us on this path of self-study.
Because as we've seen, these principles can be easily misinterpreted or distorted.
It's like that saying, a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing.
Right.
Without proper guidance, we might misapply these principles.
And end up doing more harm than good. So Svaya emphasizes continuous learning.
Yes, it's a lifelong journey of growth.
Right, and refining our understanding.
It's not just about intellectual knowledge. It's about embodying these principles in our daily lives.
Okay. That brings us to the final principle of Niyama,
Right.
Ishvara Pradhana, often translated as surrender to the divine.
And this guide offers a really unique perspective on this principle.
Okay, what is it?
It's not about blind obedience or worshiping a distant deity.
Right.
It's about recognizing the divine within ourselves.
Okay.
And throughout all creation.
So connecting with that universal energy that unites us all.
Exactly, aligning our actions with a higher purpose.
And the guide highlights mental japa,
Yeah.
the repetition of a mantra, as a way to cultivate this connection.
By focusing on the higher ideal, we can purify our thoughts and actions and move closer to that state of oneness.
And it goes beyond just our individual practice, right?
Yes. The guide suggests that when we come together with a shared intention,
Okay, it actually amplifies our spiritual efforts.
so we can support each other on this path.
Yes, and our collective energy can create positive change.
Wow, that's a powerful idea.
It is.
So we've explored all 10 principles of Yama and Niyama.
We have. It's been quite a journey.
But how do we actually integrate these into our lives? Where do we even begin?
Well, the guide acknowledges it's an ongoing process, a lifelong journey of self-reflection, practice, and refinement.
So it encourages us to start small.
Yes, focus on one principle at a time. Gradually incorporate it into your routine.
So be patient with ourselves.
Absolutely. There will be times when we fall short.
Right.
But that's part of the journey.
What matters is that we keep coming back to these principles.
Exactly.
Striving to live in alignment with our values.
And remembering that we're not alone on this path.
Right, we have each other.
We have the wisdom of those who came before us.
Yeah.
And we have the support of the divine.
This deep dive has been truly enlightening. It has been a pleasure exploring this with you.
I feel like I have a much deeper understanding of these principles.
That's wonderful to hear.
And how I can apply them to my own life.
Remember, these principles have the power to create positive change in the world.
And it all starts with each of us.
If we strive to live by these principles, working together to build a more just, compassionate,
and sustainable world.
Imagine the possibilities.
Yeah, it's a beautiful vision.
It is.
And it's within our reach.
As you go back to your daily life, keep these principles in mind. Consider how you can apply them in your interactions, your work, your relationships, your engagement with the world.
Remember, even small acts of kindness, compassion, integrity can have a ripple effect.
You have the power to contribute to a more beautiful and harmonious world.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep diving deep.
We'll see you soon.